There is no shortage of movies that feature stealing and thievery, and that's probably because it's art imitating life. Netflix is now bringing us some real-life robberies with their original docudrama series, Heist. So let's dive in. Heist is a new Netflix documentary series chronicling 3 of the biggest heists in modern American history, as explained by the people who pulled them off. There is a 21-year-old woman who steals millions in Vegas casino cash, an aspiring father who swipes a fortune from the Miami airport and uses TV shows to learn how to get away with it, and a Kentucky dad who is accused of one of the biggest bourbon burglaries, say that 3 times fast, in history. So this is a 6-part series with each story encompassing 2 episodes. The show sets up a template for how it will tell the stories, and because the 3 heists are not interconnected, you can choose which crime you'd like to watch first. Now, the first episode in each story takes the time to really set up the perpetrators with lots of background information that is then supported by first-hand accounts from the crooks themselves. The episodes are filled with interviews from the thieves, their friends, family, and then law enforcement. And along with the interviews are dramatic reenactments. Now, honestly, I'm not always a fan of them, but this series executes them in a compelling way that doesn't feel cheesy at all. So as the first episode in each story sets up the crime and the players, the second episode of the story then dives more into the events that come after the theft. Here we get to learn how law enforcement worked or were thwarted in their pursuit of the criminals. We also listen to the thieves describe their mindsets and their actions as they try to evade the cops. I found the crimes to be very intriguing. Each of these were able to be pulled off without any violence, which for the scale of the theft, that's pretty surprising. Each story has unique and entertaining characters that are sometimes sympathetic and other times despicable in their self-justification. Now for me, I wasn't acquainted with any of the heists, so I got a lot of enjoyment out of hearing the full tales. And not only just the way the thieves went about planning and executing their job, but then also how they were pursued by law enforcement. It was really fun to watch members of the police and FBI be impressed by the ingenuity and creativity of the thieves, but then also be dumbfounded at how difficult the cases were to solve. The interviews are engaging because a lot of the time it feels like they're speaking directly to us, and at times even break the fourth wall to ask us a question, even if it's hypothetical or rhetorical. With the 6 episodes, they're each about 40 minutes, so the binge isn't that long. Plus, because they're broken into 3 stories, to watch one full account is easy, and then you can watch another when the mood strikes. The stories move quickly and fit a bunch of information and emotion in the relatively short runtimes. For me, a lot of these heists were eye-opening, first at the brazenness of the crooks, but then at the relative ease at which they carried out their plans. The first 2 stories involve cash thefts, but the last story revolves around the theft of high-end liquor. That wasn't even something I'd considered could be relevant to a series dedicated to highlighting high-end thievery. That last story was also the most frustrating for me when it came to justice. The circumstances of the case and arrest were a little suspect, and because a lot of politics were involved, it wasn't as satisfying of a conclusion as I had hoped for. Regardless though, each of the stories contains very interesting characters that are entertaining to watch as they tell their version of events. If you're a fan of true crime, this can satisfy with the accounts of crooks, cops, and the pursuit of justice. If you like watching some unbelievably brazen acts where tons of money are at stake, you can also find some fun with this. And best of all, the storytelling is engaging with the interviews from the crooks themselves, but then it's supplemented with emotional accounts from friends and family. While these may serve as cautionary tales to anybody considering taking a large portion of something that just doesn't belong to them, it can probably also start the gears working of somebody shady who's looking more closely at some high-yield targets that could be accomplished with just a little planning, some luck, and no violence. So I had a lot of fun with this documentary series. The cases were interesting, and more importantly, they were told in a very engaging and entertaining way. The characters were animated, energetic, full of hubris, emotional, and sometimes even funny. I hope the series continues and brings us more tales of true crime heists in the very near future, because I just couldn't get enough of it. There is sex, nudity, a ton of profanity, and a little bit of violence. I highly recommend checking out Heist on Netflix. So are there any heists that you'd like to see in the show cover in the future? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this review, please give it a like. Also, don't forget to share and subscribe. I'm Chris. This is Movies and Munchies. Thanks for couching with me.